Hmm.
Good evening, good morning. Welcome to the OSIS Lounge sessions. This evening this morning, we've got our final guest speaker, which is co-founder Chris Tabaro. So without any further ado, I will just get Chris to introduce himself, share a bit of his personal or professional background. We'll just leave it up to Chris to see where we start.
Okay, this is the first time since like high school, or not even high school, since I was in San Diego, that I heard someone call me by my legal name.
Sorry, I panicked for a second there.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You're like, huh? Who's Chris Tabaro?
Who's Chris?
Well, that's me. Hey guys, what's going on? Pleasure to be on, and yeah, looking forward to being interrogated. Let's do it.
All right. Let's start. Look, you made just before we went on air, guys. Chris made a comment. He said he's been doing this since he was 12, and I was like, "What do you mean 12?" But I think I might encourage Chris to start with what he was doing when he was 12 and why he was being interviewed. How do you feel about that, Chris?
I mean, cool. Let's do it. I feel fine about that. I was mentioning to Rachel that it's okay to, ask me whatever she wants to ask. I'm used to being interviewed when I was 12. Some of you guys might already know this, but my siblings and I made like a little family band for fun, like through our dad, and that turned into something serious because MySpace, when that was a thing, it blew up, and I started playing music professionally. Had to learn how to be in photo shoots and smile. I'm still an introvert, but I didn't like to even smile for the camera. I had to learn how to do that, how to answer questions properly, and how to talk. And that kind of carried over because we were getting paid to play from that age. So from there, that carried over into the rest of my life and my career. So that's what I meant. I'm 29 now, so that's 17. That's like more than half of my life of doing this. Yeah.
So you and your siblings, was it like a Jackson 5 inspired kind of setup?
No, but that's what everyone would say.
Sorry.
Yeah. It was, just, when you're growing up, you're all trying to figure out what you love. And I mean, everyone loves music, but being good at something doesn't mean it's going to be what you want to pursue. So I ended up being the only one that ended up wanting to pursue that professionally for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but got a talented family, so so they could all play.
But your love's been the bass guitar, hasn't it?
At the time, it was. I mean, my love for the bass guitar is for sure, but I enjoy music. Like the songs that I was listening to the most that were actually a lot like piano based. My first instrument was piano. I played it when I started playing piano when I was 7, and then I think I just love melody. I love composition. I love things that sound good together. And bass is one of those instruments where, like, it's hard to learn how to get really good at it because it's about being simple and then making something simple feel really good. So I tackled the bass because it was something where the ceiling seemed like it was like unlimited, and so I love bass, but I love all instruments.
So July was saying last night that you were in the French Canadian part of Canada. So where was that? Was it over Quebec side?
Yeah, Ottawa. So Ottawa, Gatineau, Montreal, and all of that. I was like an hour and a half away from the Quebec. I'm like it. I was in the middle. Ottawa is a bilingual city, so it's almost expected that everyone speaks one language or the other. But the reason we were there is mainly because pre-war in Rwanda, the second language there was French, or technically the third. But their second official language was French, and so my parents, particularly my mom, didn't even really speak English. My dad spoke English, but my mom didn't at the time before they acclimated to North America, and so I was speaking French. And so yeah, I was in French Canada, and then high school ended up in English Canada, so that was a really weird adjustment to learn some of the like science and math terms in English, but it worked. But people would know that, I guess, unless I told you.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that was one of the things I was wondering about last night, because I know France colonized a lot of spaces and cultural nations, should I say, in Africa, and I couldn't remember rightly if Rwanda had French as one of the languages as well. How many languages do you actually speak, Chris?
I only fluently speak two, but I can understand. I can understand some Spanish a bit better than Portuguese, and that's just helping. And the Kinyarwanda, which is my parents' native tongue, is something I understand what they're saying, but I can't really speak it. And I mean, where am I going to learn that out here other than at the house?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's more, I'll speak the English, et je vais parler le français. But other than that, it's just more of a, well, I guess you could say that some coding languages are actual languages, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah, true. So where to start? Because I know you're... Okay, well, let's start with the things that interest you. What are you doing if you're not coding, if you're not business focused, OSIS scaling focused, coding focused? Do you know what I mean? What are you doing for downtime at the moment?
Downtime?
Well, I mean, let's use the phrase loosely.
I mean, that's not a hard question to answer. I'm just trying to like organize my day in my head. So because we're public now, it's hard to just tell you, oh, like I have this particular thing that I do, because an alarm could go off at 2 a.m. for me or at 4 p.m. So I have to. So one thing I do a lot is nap. Another thing that I do, like maybe an hour or two every other day, is I'll play Elden Ring. I like Elden Ring. And then, I mean, I play music, but I listen a lot more right now these days. I listen to music. I wrote a book, so I spent a lot of time thinking. I just wrote a book for us.
And blockchain for blockheads, was it?
Yeah, blockchain for idiots is what.
Oh yeah, sorry. I don't know why I keep saying blockheads.
I kept doing that actually in my every save file. After save files are like blockchain blockheads. I just wrote some. I was like, yeah, what am I doing? It's just tired writing, but yeah, I would I'd do that. I would sometimes it's more reflective time. I meditate. I'll play a video game. But these days, I spend more of my daytime thinking and being still, which might not sound like it's relaxing time, but that's just how I know how to relax. Because I feel like I can't relax necessarily until not even until it's all done. I have to be in a state of being that's always prepared.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I it's like even playing a video game for an hour and a half, I'm just using it as an interface for focusing.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I am, and it's taken a while to get to that place, but I'm here. So yeah, I'm in a state where my relaxing state is a focus state.
Like an active relaxer, processing stuff on the inside. Hey, I was going to ask too, was it last year that you learned to code? Did you literally learn to code last year?
Technically, yes.
Technically. Yeah.
But I've been around developers watching for and directing development teams since I was 24 for 5 years. So I've been able, it's like kind of like producing. So I've been making songs since I was 13, like making my own songs, but I didn't get in front of a laptop to make beats. Like real like productions or whatever. Compositions are more real in my opinion, but let's pretend like, okay, you're on a DAW, like a music beat making interface thing. I've been watching people doing that since I was 12. Like, let's say I get hired to play bass or some other instrument. I'd see these guys messing around on Pro Tools, and I just watch. So anyway, I'm saying this because a lot of people were surprised when I bought recording gear when I was 20, and then made like crazy beats or whatever in my first couple of days. But it was like I've been in this space watching people do this for like 8 years before that point. So I got pretty good at what I'm doing on the code side, but I've also been exposed to it for 5 years.
Yeah, kind of absorbing it.
Yeah.
That's pretty genius.
No.
Like, I feel like it is. I would say it is, but I don't know. I don't code. I mean, I see computer words and think, well, classic example. The first time I saw the word TradFi, I thought they were talking about tattoos because I was like, TradFi, what's that? But then I realized it was finance. So, always learning. So how did you feel about the book when you wrote it? Is it something that you're going to feel really pumped about when we get to read it? Do you think it's a clear, logical outline for everyone who's still thinking to themselves, what am I going to do and how am I going to do this?
Well, you know what? To answer that question, I want to start by going back to the thing you were saying about how hard it is, or it might seem to be, like learning to do something like coding. Because I think what makes it seem crazy is like how bloated it looks, right? You're looking at something and you're like, how can this hashtag include, and then these letters, and then this return 0 or whatever? How can that equal whatever? And for me, I had to learn a trick to learn anything that I want. And want is an important thing. It has to turn into will. But if I stay on one, I guess on one particular thing here, for coding, I spent the first like 3 months trying to argue with my own self and understand, like creating like two people in my own brain, like myself and maybe someone else, and try to argue to see if like we're both on the same page, kind of thing, to understand like a particular paradigm that I never had before. Like for me, arrays was something, and I think still is something that is difficult for me to visualize. And then when I started being able to break things down in a way that I haven't been able to do before, then it was easier for me to start writing things. So that's kind of helped me. And in terms of the book, though, if you're asking me like about the process and how it was,
Because wasn't that when you were flying to Dubai?
Yeah.
Did you just knock that out on a flight?
I wrote it on the flight, yeah.
Dude, that's madness. Wow, that's awesome.
But I did, like, I have been thinking about the book for like a month.
Well, that was my next question. How long had you been in the process of writing it in your mind, kind of thing?
Exactly.
So it was just slow.
So I was sitting there in my head being like, well, how should I go about this? And then I'd argue against my own self, like, oh, maybe that won't work. And then I'll be like, well, why not? Instead of like, because a lot of people might have that second voice in their head, make the person give up or force themselves in a particular direction. And I spend that time trying to narrow down an angle to take. And I mean, I don't take notes, which is something that I think people think is weird, but I will if I really need to. Like if I'm doing like quantum computing or something, you probably want to take notes. But with the book, unless it's like let's say some fantasy novel where I need to keep track of like hundreds of characters, with something like the book that wrote like Blockchain for Idiots, all I needed was a direction that I wanted to take, and I just kind of free flowed with that. So my notes ended up just being the chapters that I'm writing, and I just organize it all. And so, instead of second guessing, once I got the general idea, what I'm writing as I'm writing it, I just kind of let it go as I'm talking in my head towards the paper, and I'm getting the feedback. Jalal's on the plane, next to me on the plane, so I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? And and then I just keep writing.
Yeah.
And then the book shows up. That's how it goes.
Well, I'm sure there's plenty of us that are very keen to have a look at it once it gets out to publication. I think I think most of us would be quite keen to have a look at it, actually. Yeah. But I just so guys, just in relation to the conversation last night, I had my eye on the Discord channel, and we kind of just opened it up to questions as they came to people's mind. Chris, are you okay if I jump in and out of questions as they come up, or do you want to keep the flow of a conversation happening?
Whatever you want, I'm going to go with it.
Roger that. Well, we got a question from Juan, and he wants to know, can you ask Chris what artist is his greatest inspiration when he decided to create music, and how does he see OSIS and his music career intertwined in the future?
Ooh.
Such a good question, Juan.
Well, when I was talking earlier about music, the person that I was seeing in my head, it was actually a song. So my background is actually jazz fusion, and like R&B. Hit Herbie Hancock, a song called New York Minute. Some crazy piano song. I love his solos too crazy. I would listen. I remember having the little MP3 players, like this light blue one or whatever. I forget the company it was from, but I just have my ears in there, like hours at a time. This was a little bit before I think I played bass, and then even when I was playing bass. So so it goes like this. For me, the inspirations: Herbie Hancock, Jaco Pastorius. He's a bass player, one of the most legendary bass players of all time. And then from there, Stevie Wonder. Michael Jackson was more of an artist that I was watching him and enjoying what he was doing when I was like, I think 5, 6, 7, like years old. Like there's this VHS we had where he was doing Smooth Criminal, all these songs. It's like, yo, this guy's crazy. He's out here, like getting rid of bad guys, because you don't know what's real or not. And so there's him, but Stevie. Okay, so it goes Herbie Hancock. It goes Jaco Pastorius, and then Stevie Wonder. In terms of the music that I'm creating, it's hard to say I have an influence like everything's my influence.
Mhm.
Like I can walk around and hear like a bird, or like even the pause between a sentence someone has is like sound music to me.
Yep.
So at this point, it's like anyone and everything is my influence.
Yeah. Well then, okay, so let's look at that second part of the question. How do you see your music career intertwined with OSIS in the future? What's that look like?
Well, what's funny is I'm on this. I don't want to give you bloated answers, but this is the time for it, right?
Yeah.
So I get slightly personal with like a path that I haven't really shared this with many people. So I'll just do that. Yeah. So I'm on this path, this personal, this idea. I'm on this path that I'm calling becoming nothing. And what that means is I'm trying to do the best I can to strip agenda and personal goals out of a collective objectives. If I define that further, and to answer your question, I don't care where I fit as an artist in OSIS. What I see is whatever I'm producing as a part, like a star in the sky, like one out of trillions of things that makes the whole. Mm-hmm. When you become nothing, you're everything. When you are okay with nothing, you have everything. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if enough people, and when enough people see that, they can really see like what like love and power really means. Like, for example, if you see those stories where like a kid is stuck under a car or something, and the mother goes in and lifts the whole car up somehow, or someone's about to get hit by a train, guy like is running through, doesn't care about his own life, pushes the person off away from the train tracks, and everything's all good. In those small moments in time, that person is nothing. That person is service. That person is the objective, and it's just a part of something. And where I want the art and the music and how it connects to the whole vision of OSIS to kind of lie is within that whole that energy. The kind of the trigger for the idea of OSIS came from a dude who asked me when I was younger what I wanted to become, or what I wanted when I was older, which is a self question. And I jokingly said, "Oh, I want to be a billionaire," and I laughed. Yeah. And it didn't really line up with how I felt, and I know the guy could tell. And so he said, "Well, if you want to be a billionaire, you need to touch a billion lives." And I've never heard that before. That almost freaked me out when I heard it. And so that kind of changed everything. So yeah, basically, I just see the music. I'm not trying to play it down either, but it's just something that it's not me. It's everything. Like once I need to make sure that OSIS is a priority in order for the music to, take its realist form.
Yeah, like free flow.
Yeah.
So OSIS, so it started with a question that set you on this path. How long did it, what was the process of conceiving OSIS from that one question that freaked you out really to finding, thinking, looking for a way, finding the way, and then collecting those around you to carry on down that path of making OSIS happen? What was that like? You know what I mean? Like, I'm imagining you've got a very clear recollection of how it kind of moved through time to now?
Yeah, I'm gonna turn 10 years into a few minutes in order to answer that. So, in 2014. Yeah, I can start with this gig I had. I played at a coffee shop it used to be called Sapphire. I think now it's this it's that one store you like, the ramen place. It became this ramen place, and I was playing at this place, just playing guitar and singing, and that's where it was this like rich poker player guy. He ended up seeing me there, and all these people saw me there. And at the time, I didn't really have much money. I'm just this guy playing guitar and singing or whatever. And yeah, they took notice. They wanted me to play at this event called Hillside. They're like, oh, we can get you to Hillside. It's like this a relatively big festival in Canada. And it was happening in like a week. We were also trying to get on a road trip to San Diego. And this would have been the first time for me in a long time to get past the border to the States. With like my friends. Yep. So anyway, I saw this as an opportunity, but maybe even make money to get on the road trip because my friends were going to go without me. And so anyway, we get to the festival, and it just so happens, no, you're not allowed to just play short notice. Who are you?
Yeah.
And so this guy, he finds a way to get like a generator, and finds a way to create like a makeshift stage and all this stuff, a microphone or whatever, in front of like hundreds of people for me to play like impromptu. And I do. People are freaking out. Then security comes on and they're like, "Hey, you can't be playing. What are you doing?" And everyone's sad. And I'm like, when they leave, I'm saying, they told us to stop, but we're not going to stop. Everyone was freaking out. Gonna keep singing. Then they came back again, and then they're like, "Okay, we're gonna kick you out if you." So I ended up going into the crowd with everybody. There's like a fireplace, and so this is where I'm starting thinking about collective, because I'm sitting down with this group of people. For some reason, in this fire, there's like a guy with a mandolin. There's people with flute. There's a guy with a guitar. There's all these people. There's like too many people playing music. I sit there for a second. I start playing "Give Me the Beat Boys." And everybody singing it. It's like, I don't know, 400 or 500 people all together just singing this thing. It was like on this one dedicated part of the festival. It's like one of those outdoor things in the summertime. Yeah. But anyway, while this was happening, though, the guy who told me about the Billion Lives thing, he was like walking around the area, getting people to like buy at the time, because these outdoor festivals, and getting people to either buy shrooms or just like donate money to get me to get on this road trip. Yeah. And he raised more than enough, and I didn't ask him to do none of that. Yeah. And my friends were going to leave that night, so I go from playing out there to being able to afford to leave, and then I'm on the road. Yeah. Same night. It's like 3 a.m. We're driving. I get to California with all these things in my mind. After 4 or 5 days, it was a crazy experience. That's for maybe another call. But I get there, and then I just had this trigger in my head. It was like, I want to do so much more than just. I mean, the music's so important, but there's something missing, and it just hit me that I'm gonna learn that here. I need to get a recording contract. I need to learn more about the business. There's going to be a trigger. So I decided to forego staying in Canada. I ended up, we went back to Canada, and then I flew back to the States with nothing. And the OSIS trigger started back then, but in California was when I was starting to be able to see like how something like this could work. Because I started thinking about value. I'm just one person, but maybe there's importance to being just one person. And it was like, well, how do people value another person what makes them valuable? Is it like what they do, who they are, like what another chooses they are? Those questions were so loud in my head. This is still 2014-ish. So I was kind of stewing on those thoughts for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And that question wasn't exactly what would happen if everyone was a currency. It was, what if everyone could actually value another for like what they do for them, or what they do, not even for them, because that's how it's going to start. That's what's happening right now. So anyway, 2017 happens. Jalal shows me blockchain, and I see Bitcoin, I see white papers, I see people putting all this money into collective ideas. I'm not ignoring the fact that these are scams. I'm actually like a lot of the projects. I'm realizing that people are starting by valuing things based on self, and that the fragmentation of this space is due to it being very new, and due to people, and trying to seek an immediate return without like understanding that if you're going to buy into something, you should take the time to read into it. So I was like, this is a special place. People are able to make their own currencies. This is interesting. And so that thought came. I was like, can people do it easily? Can people do it quickly? Has anyone tokenized themselves? The word tokenized, I don't think it even was a thing back then. Yeah. But I was like, can someone create their own thing? The answer was no, and that's where OSIS started in 2017, like the whole premise of it. And then 2021 was when we actually acted on creating what we made, because no one did that yet.
Yeah. So it seems more like it was a project to try and find the connections in our relationships or make them more prominent. Is that kind of what you were seeking versus another cog in the, another brick in the wall?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you go off of a Pink Floyd vibe, yeah. I think, not even I think, I know that it depends on what you're building. If you're just making like what's the wall, like, what is it blocking? What is it doing? Like, what is it for? I feel like we're all a part of something. You can either look at us as a brick, or you can look at us as stars in the sky. Yeah. With our own like ecosystems, and like one star can be bigger, one can be smaller, one can have 5 planets, one can have 0. And I think everyone is trying to be the biggest star. I think that's the problem with our world right now. Everyone wants more and more and more and more, and they're not willing to provide and to sacrifice. So I'm saying this also because I know that a lot of people have the expectation of like, something big is going to take time to, like, if you're on a bigger planet, it's going to take longer for a day to go by than a smaller one. Yeah. And I think people forget that that's the case when it comes to platforms on the blockchain, like larger ones that last longer. Like, for example, for us, like, we're trying to create something large, and that's the type of thing that takes time. For those who've been here since the beginning, they know this. And I think this is also just a message to extend to the community, to be able to understand that, like, what we're building is going to take some time. And so it's like, are they willing to understand that if they're going to be a part of the ecosystem and make their own thing, they got to know, okay, if you're making something bigger, or if you're a star that's a smaller one, or a bigger one, if you're honest about it, like if you're making if you're tokenizing an apartment versus a complex, like, do you understand the difference? Yeah. Like, versus, okay, if you're trying to tokenize everything versus tokenizing music, we're tokenizing everything. So it's going to take us, we need to prepare this properly. Not for us, not every listing is a smart listing. If we rush them, we want to list, for example, a third time, but we need to make sure that every move that we make is calculated enough so that our sun actually turns over the next day, and we don't have a pole shift out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So I hope that makes sense. In terms of like collective things, I just feel like those types of messages should be extended for expectations to be met correctly. Like we're trying to make something large for everybody to participate in their own way, in their own place, to then create their own systems.
100%. I think that's a clear message that everyone in the community that's been here for a while watching you guys work on behalf of the community, but as part of the community, it's all about alignment with the North Star for OSIS, not just any star. If we're using analogies of stars, you're kind of giving us all the opportunity to find our own place in the sky, but OSIS has its own North Star, and we're all kind of collectively imagining those possibilities, I imagine.
Yeah.
I feel like there's been, for me personally, like I've never ever said that I'm 100% understand the whole picture, and for me it's really just about, what I want for everyone else is to feel that they are able to learn in a way that works for them. So I think you're probably the same in a lot of ways. There's no nastiness in our Discord. Like to a certain degree, we're all just trying to find our own space in the sky. You know what I mean? And I feel like, particularly since we've listed, myself, I have felt myself completely relax into the trajectory, because it just feels genuine, and it feels undeniable that it's going to become something significant. And I've kind of felt myself relax into a different space when I perceive my own life now. I want to be of service more, because I don't believe I'll find my way if I'm trying to take. For me personally, I don't watch the markets. I mean, the first time I looked at the markets, it said 222, and I was like, what does that mean? Does it mean like 222 somewhere in the morning somewhere? And I was like, I was at a dinner table with my mates who'd come up to see me, and I was like, holy mother. And there's a few swear words in there, and they're like, what? And I'm like, I think I'm looking at the price. And it was, that for me tripped me out, but it certainly didn't think to myself, yes, financially I've made the right choice. I thought to myself, that's interesting, but it was never I understand this market analysis because it's incredibly important for the project, but I just think to myself, I've kind of relaxed in terms of what does service look like. And how do you feel about hearing that? Do you think to yourself, okay, we're creating this one person senses a culture that kind of aligns in that space? What do you feel when you hear that?
Oh, about what people perceive is in terms of market fluctuations, or
probably more so there'll be two camps: people who are continuing to feel about the products and know they're successful and feel confident about them without seeing them in action just yet, and then there's the people that are really involved in the market. Do you think it's a nice balance of two sides of the brain in our community?
I mean, I think that is not something that I should or can control. In the spirit of decentralization, whatever that would mean. I know that the space in general right now, because of how the human mind works, like right now we're dealing, if I'm going to be like real about it,
Please.
like the crypto space in general is like, as far as the macro community perspective of things, is very capitalistic by nature, which means money is going to get made, but there's going to be a lot of losers because it's very focused on the money that can be generated way more than the value that can be created after, like from things that are being made. And I think that it's infectious. It's like an infection. Like the money, it infects people, the concept of it. And one can argue, or one has argued as much as they possibly can, that if you can't touch it, it's not real. But what I believe and seen is that it's usually the tangible that's the most shallow. And that's what has created the mess that we're in today over thousands of years, not crypto. It's just a mentality and a habit that we have. It doesn't matter if we're in a centralized space or a decentralized one. Human behavior is always going to trump technology. It's because it's going to influence it. I mean, why? Like, the wiring of our technology is based on the brain, the veins, like everything that we create is based on our own human technology. But we forego the ethereal and like the things we can't touch, which are more important. It's just harder to understand when you're so caught up in what you can get right away. But like, I mean, the law doesn't lie. Like, if you can feel it, it's going to come back as something that's more valuable to you and to everyone around you. It's a boomerang. It takes time to come back. But the thing that you can touch, it's right there right away. But guess what? It's like a drug. It's like Molly or something. You're gonna have a down. You're gonna have a down. And so people come in for the right reasons. I'm not talking about a community. I'm talking about every single coin possible. Every single project possible. I've noticed that everybody comes in for the right reasons. Whatever that means. The right reason could be anything. The right reason could even be just a financial gain because they got families to feed, they got things they want to do. Everyone comes in for the right reason. I think they get corrupted by the need for that to happen at a particular point in time. Because then they forget what they got in for. And then they're only thinking about like what they can get from it instantly when they could just make the choice of, okay, sell or buy. Like they when it comes to the market aspect of things, like make the decision simple. So within our space right now, if I'm going to communicate, potential solutions is when people look at a white paper and when people read into what a project is doing, they should know that they're not just a brick in the wall or a cog in the wheel or just one small part of it. But it's the fact that they are a small part of it that they should realize that the moves that they make and the feelings that they feel and express towards another will affect the entire system. I think we undervalue our own importance in the little things we do, and we value the money thing way more, which is just an instrument.
That's super deep, but really at the end of the day, I think it's true. It's a good observation. It's a really good observation, and I think it's respect to the people that are continuing to show up for each other, because it is a long-term project, and it doesn't necessarily require a date to give us all something to focus on, but it just requires a constant heartbeat. And I feel like that's something quite important.
Yeah.
I was thinking too, like, it has to be more of an emotional project too for it to be something that's going to be long term. It has to be an emotional project for you in some ways, doesn't it? So how do you keep the balance on, setting that alarm clock, getting to that meeting, talking to people that are potentially, you catch the vibe, they may be talking down to you or they might not take you seriously. How do you keep it all balanced?
I used to care about that a lot. I actually used to care about, man, these guys they're not taking me serious, this and that. I do not care. I have lost, I'm being serious. I have lost the, maybe I'm desensitized to it, or maybe it's experience. I actually, in terms of, I do want to touch on that other point as well. When I mentioned instrument, it's like this. If money is an instrument, and the people are are valuable, more valuable than the instrument itself. Well, the instrument's still valuable, especially if someone's playing that instrument. So I think that's like the thing that I was trying to say in terms of how this could be an emotional project for me. I think I'm past it being emotions. It's like a passionate thing. I see this as like I see OSIS as something that's going into like a battlefield.
Yeah,
it's out here in a sea of other things that are happening, and its goal is to turn the battlefield into a party.
Yeah,
to get people to put their weapons down and to work together. And when like being in that state of mind has made it very difficult for me to care about someone trying to, if they do talk me down in a business call or whatever else. It's like, all right, are they being real? Do they want to party?
yeah.
Do they want to work together? And if the answers are no, I have two choices. I only have two. It's either to continue the conversation or to stop it.
Yeah.
So it ends up being very simple. I have like binary solutions to emotional things because I can't really afford to be overly emotional right now, especially since people count on me to have answers.
Yeah.
But if I'm gonna be like real too, like I have to show that like I have a heart, right?
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of times a person can misconstrue like person who's in their business energy to not have those things. It's because it's a very, I think, blue or like masculine space, like the business world, and people can lose their way very quickly through power and all these other things. So when I hear you say emotion, I hear more love, like the word love. And when you can come from that place first before you exert like any type of authority, you can kind of understand where a person's coming from if they're trying to question you or like question what you're doing, or not believe in you if you're talking to like an investor and they're wondering this is that. It's funny, I had a call with someone like a couple weeks ago that was questioning what we had, and I just asked him because he got on this call and he was supposed to be prepared. So then I take emotion out of it. He asked us, well, what is OSIS actually going to do for everything as a platform? And then I asked him, I was like, well, we've been on the call for 30 minutes. Did you read the white paper? And he said he didn't. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to give you another chance. I'm looking at it like I'm going to give you another chance. I'm not hurt. And I said, well, OSIS, you can picture it like BNB or like Ether. But if you look at it like BNB, we're going to create its own. Have you ever heard about a currency that's ever had its own exchange that failed? And, so I'm asking that question to see if a person is going to go negative or positive, right, in their answer. Like, what kind of person would I even be working with? if I'm talking to someone who's saying they're going to invest a ton of money, it's not about their money. It's about who's investing with us.
Yeah.
And so he immediately went to talking about SP, this company that made billions of dollars before failing. But in his perspective, he said they failed. So I was like, well, they made billions before they failed, right? So they made a ton of people some money, right? And he's like, well, they failed though. So I'm like, oh, okay, it's the type of person to talk to. So then after that, I mentioned again, well, if you can't understand why OSIS is like doing what it's doing, and I'm led to believe that you probably don't understand what Ether or Binance Coin is doing. So I'm going purely logic. He didn't like that. I could see the person got very emotional in the call, and the call ended respectfully. So when I hear people, I have to meet them where they are. I have to be mature about it, but I also will not let like a person like step over others like that I care for. Those are just logical solutions to things. So it's like, I understand that we're in a battlefield, try to turn it to a party. If they don't want to, then hey, you know, I have to find out if I need to slap someone in the face and then walk away, or turn the other cheek and smile and keep going.
I feel like we all just learned something. I feel like we all just learned how to carry ourselves in conversations.
Oh, what? Nah.
No, I think you probably don't. Well, that's certainly what I heard. And I think to myself, you know, if you're going to be the leader, if you're going to want to lead a company, you would want to be intelligent about it. And I think that I would imagine a lot of people took something quite significant from that, maybe. But I just feel like I don't feel like it's ever. I feel like you're going to want to always be looking at every opportunity to really decide if it feels right or if it doesn't feel right, positive, negative. Which it makes a lot of sense, because I always feel like this is a heartfelt project. But yes, it's wise enough to understand that money's involved, but it's a heartfelt project. Like you say, the canvas is the sky and we're all the stars in it. So
yeah, it's like I can't expect a person that runs into our project for the first time to feel it. That's the thing that I think a lot of leaders might misunderstand, and maybe a lot of other people that are passionate about something, is to just expect someone to get it right away. I used to do that really, really early in my career. I used to be like, man, why don't they understand? Man, they just don't get it. Instead of asking why. Maybe I'm not communicating properly enough. Maybe I'm not a believable person. Maybe they just don't see it. And that's okay. And so then it's like, I have two choices. Either I help them see it or I just walk away.
Yeah.
And if they're not willing to see it, hey, it doesn't matter if they're a hater or not. If I understand that's where they're coming from, or the other thing, then it's my responsibility to move forward or not. It's not theirs.
Yeah.
You know? So that's the thing that I think a lot of people misunderstand. Emotions can get you caught up in immaturity if you're too deep into the expectation that others should see what you see.
That's that's certainly an absolute old soul in that body of yours, because that's a giant cup of wisdom right there. Guys, look, I know we're just coming to the top of the hour, and I don't know how people, if you've got any questions that you wanted to ask, by all means, please ask as we come to close out, because I'm just so aware that these guys have been burning themselves at both ends of the candle for quite a while. And I know we went over with Jalal last night, but I really wanted to try and respect the time that they're giving us as well. So if you've got any questions, because I know we're going to go into a community call at half an hour after the hour as well. So I'd love to give Chris a bit of a break before that happens too. I can see Juan typing something, but if anyone else has a question, please ask away. Chris, while we're just in these last minutes, What would you like us to know, think about, consider individually as community members moving forward? Like the next 2 to 3 years is really going to be painting the picture in the frame almost. What is it that you want us to carry with us?
Shoot, that's a good question. Okay, if I answer your question literally, it's different than what I was gonna say, which is good. What should everybody want to carry with themselves moving forward? I mean, everyone's carrying OSIS already. But I would say this. What people should take away is, and I think most people are doing this already. I know that. I could see a lot of people here already knowing that they were here for years already. But to remember that they've been here for years. And we just took a very big step. It is not time for us to rush at all. Now that we got out, it's been a month and a half. I had a conversation with Jalal. Conversations, plural. And it's been surrounding this. Okay, so this company called Ascendex wants to list us. They're actually probably the most, as far as tier 2, 3 exchanges, so Bitmart and Nixie exchanges, they're the ones with the most legit like volume and community. They ran into us, they spoke to us. I was going to talk about listing and stuff in response to this because I was like, well, the people want us to list on the third exchange now. Even CoinMarketCap wants us to list right now. Everything is saying we need to rush this, get this done right this second. I'm like, well, do we just do this? Do we just press the button? Can we? I mean, we have money to raise to make all these things happen. So there's that to consider. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble because if there's people selling all this shit, then price is going to go down. All these like the short-term things could end up happening to make people get, go through emotional roller coasters. I want to do this correctly. What's the move? And the conversation kind of went along the lines of, well, we represent free. So DEX, decentralized exchange is the best play. However, that's where everyone can buy and sell. We want to make sure that before we go in and like pay some random large Chinese exchange, like for example, Gate.io, to get on there and like expend like a quarter of our capital to just do something like this. For people that really don't care too much about our platform, we should really think about like the amount of capital that's needed to get on something, like why we get on that thing, how we get on that thing, just like we've always done. And if it takes us a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we have to move based on our own plan and not how the market's moving, because that's inconsequential to the bigger picture for what we're doing. Like for example, in the pre-sale time, like we have to be able to trust our gut. We did. In the last moments, we were like, let's make the meta badges, and we did, and that was successful. And then we said, okay, let's not list some that have a bad feeling. Then FTX crashed because they were doing some low down stuff. And if we listed back then based on like all the pressure we were getting from immediate gratification, we'd be in trouble. I'm saying this because now us as a community, we're all going to be involved in that fray of stuff. You're going to be getting the pressure from others, right? To do X and O, to move here or there, to buy more, sell more, whatever. Like everyone's going to get that kind of like push either in your own head or from someone from the outside. But what I'm trying to recommend that everyone carries with them is a level of poise to where you can calmly make choices for whatever you got going on. And if you're trying to do this for the collective, then that's a whole other conversation that is very simple. It's like, believe in us. That's it. Because that's what we're doing. All these choices that we're making are for all of y'all. So forgo the charts, but know that other people are looking at them. Know that, okay, there's two markets, there's two types of people here, I guess, quick term, short term. long-term, quick-term and long-term people, but like that exists. We just have to know that, like, well, what do we need to get the most amount of people a part of this, regardless of who they are? What is that going to take? And then if you ask us those questions, we give you those answers, then you can kind of move. It's like, ask yourself the question of, what questions can I get answered to put me in a position where I'm in the most relaxed state of being without it being like antsy? Like, if people are antsy, ask questions. That's what I can say. Don't just sit there not asking a question, thinking that it's a wrong question. With us, there's no wrong questions. Just don't be disrespectful.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the top of the hour. Thank you so much, Chris. That was a great way to end the call and give everyone some momentum into the next call that's coming up in 25 minutes. We've got a huge strategy call that we are broadcasting on all channels. So I invite everyone to join us there. Thank you so much, Rachel and Chris, again, for this hour and this time. That was super cool interview and conversation. I feel like very, very few people have seen, I guess, had a conversation with Chris, the person, the individual. So that was wonderful. If there's any closing thoughts, guys, please share them now.
For sure. Pleasure to be on. It was, what do you call that? It was interesting. I haven't been interviewed in a while. You know, Rachel did a great job too. Is she still here?
I know we use the word interview, but just loosely, it's just a wee chat, really, because I'm not really a skilled interviewer. I'm just a curious person who likes to ask a lot of questions.
Hey, interviewers don't have to be skilled. They have to be natural, and you fit the bill. So I felt fine.
All right. Look, thank you so much, guys. Let's close it out. Thank you guys for being here all week. We've had some really interesting chats. There's a lot of impeccable minds in this project, and I think we can all say just trust them. Thank you so much, Chris. Look, guys, we'll see everyone in about 25 minutes for the community call. But overall, I hope everyone takes the next 25 minutes to feel proud of themselves for being here and having the belief in the project, because it's we go together or not at all kind of vibe, and I think we're doing that really well. So without further ado, thank you, and we'll see everyone in 25 minutes.
See y'all later. Hell yeah, thank you.
Thank you.